Shinga.
Honorable Shinga, yes, I see you. Thank you. And we've also, we will be joined by others. I can see the Provincial Audit and Risk Committee is here, Mr. Zulu, and I can see Adele Howard from the Office of the AG. They also staff, etc. So I think we are in a position to commence. So let me welcome all of you to the meeting and to say that this briefing will commence with the briefing by the Department of Health, on the Department of Health. Then we'll go to the one on the Agribusiness Development Agency. Let me, without further ado, go to attendance and apologies. Kabo, do we have any apologies?
No apology, ma'am. That's been received, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm welcoming. Yes, so I'm welcoming all members of SCOPA, members of the Portfolio Committee. I know that there's an apology from Honorable Speedla Sapeta, who has an organizational commitment. She has sent me a message, but that seems to be the only apology we have. I'll welcome the representatives of the Office of the Auditor General, the Provincial Audit and Risk Committee, our legislature personnel as well who are with us. We have the legal advisor, our support staff, and we also have researchers from the Portfolio Committee with us as well. So without further ado, let me go into the presentation by the AG. It has been circulated to us members, but if it can be flighted, I'm not sure, Adele, from your team, or Merusha, from your team, who is doing this presentation, but I'll hand over to the team from the Office of the Auditor General.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable members. For the Department of Health, it will be Erin Sampson that will take you through the presentation, and then I will present on Agribusiness Development Agency. Thank you.
Thanks, Adele. Erin, we'll hand over to you. Are you in a position to flight that presentation?
Good morning, Honourable Chair, and good morning, members of the committee and all those present in this meeting. Yes, if you'll allow me, I'm just going to try and share the documents on my side. Please advise if you can see the document.
Yes, we can, Erin, thanks.
Great, thank you. So I'll be taking you through the audit outcomes for 2022-2023 for the Department of Health. Our leadership would have taken you through our mission, as well as explained our culture shift strategy, as well as the accountability framework in previous engagements. So I won't dwell too much on these slides. Our accountability ecosystem is a demonstration of the role we all have to play in shifting the culture of government in order to strengthen the public sector accountability. So with respect to the Department of Health, we have observed strengths as well as weaknesses in the contributions to the ecosystem by the leadership as well as management and those in the governance structures of the department. The next two slides are our observations with the intention to contribute to strengthening the overall control environment, performance, and accountability. So in terms of the accounting officer and senior management, they were proactive in developing action plans to address prior year issues. However, progress on these plans was slow to eradicate the issues that were raised. And this is demonstrated by the repeat material findings in procurement and contract management, performance information, as well as compliance with legislation. There were also issues in the IC directorate that was not adequately capacitated, as there was an acting CIO and 3 funded critical ICT posts which were vacant during the year. The audit committee did not ensure that all planned audits were undertaken by internal audits in line with their plan for the year. And this was as a result of the delay encountered during the change of internal audit from Provincial Treasury to the department itself. As a result, there was limited oversight or monitoring over the internal audit function and a lack of monitoring over the audit logs. In addition, the complete set of financial statements was not submitted, resulting in incomplete and inadequate reviews being performed. Internal audit, there was a hybrid model that was approved by Cabinet Resolution 3E on the 4th of December 2019, where the department was one of the departments that was approved to establish its own internal audit service. This was then effective from the 1st of December 2022, and delays were noted in the establishment of this unit, which resulted in 92% of the planned audits for the period under review only taking place in Q4. Consequently, the internal audit could not perform the necessary assessment of the department's governance, risk management, and internal control processes in time to make appropriate recommendations that would have had a positive impact on the status of the department's key controls. The auditing standards do allow us to use the work of internal audit for external audit purposes for direct assistance, but we did not use the work of internal audit as there were no reports available or tabled within the audit committee in the period under review, as the planned assignments scheduled to be performed during the 4th quarter only for the year. So in terms of financial management and compliance, you will see that the department has improved in the 2022-2023 financial year. We selected the annual performance report, we selected Program 2, District Health Services, as well as Program 4, Provincial Hospital Services. And you'll see that this the opinions here have not changed from the prior year. And compliance with legislation, there has been a slight improvement. However, we still have concerns in expenditure management, strategic planning, consequence management, as well as procurement and contract management. So the audit outcome of the department has been improved from a qualified opinion to an unqualified opinion during the year under review. And we commend the department for having put in the controls to address the valuation of movable tangible capital assets. However, there are still persistent misstatements in performance information, and these misstatements were not prevented or detected by the department's system of internal control and applicable reviews. The leadership did not exercise adequate oversight and monitoring over compliance with applicable laws and regulations, resulting in excessive amounts of irregular expenditure being incurred and weaknesses noted in the procurement and contract management. There were material misstatements that were corrected. The department did receive an unqualified opinion, and they were able to revise their methodology relating to movable tangible capital assets and correct the misstatements that were noted on this line item. The department does, however, need to improve on its controls in ensuring the completeness of the disclosure notes and recorded management system in order to promote transparency and accountability on the processes followed. Furthermore, controls need to be strengthened to ensure misstatements are identified in the internal review processes within the department before submission to audit. A detailed action plan must be developed and continuously monitored to ensure that misstatements identified in the audit process do not materialize and lead to regression in the audit outcomes. For financial health, you will see that the department is struggling a bit in terms of collection of debtors. The debts collection period highlights the ineffectiveness of credit control and collection policies. Under expenditure, you will see that the department continues to incur fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Their creditors' days is sitting at 31 days. And amounts paid in payable in future periods is 9.1% of their budget, and claims against the department as a percentage of the next year's budget is 42.7%. So the creditors' payment period highlights the inability to pay creditors on the due dates, resulting in these amounts being covered in the next year's appropriation. The department has incurred expenditure in 2022-2023 year, which will be paid in the 2023-2024 year, thus making less cash available for expenditure for service delivery. Furthermore, if claims against the department materialize and are paid out, the department will utilize 42.7% of the available budget, putting undue pressure on available funding that could be utilized for service delivery. So we did not identify any events or conditions that cast significant doubts on the ability to continue as a going concern for the department. However, there is strain on funds available for service delivery as they are currently caught up in accrued expenditure and claims against the department. I'm sure the committee is aware that there was a change in the compliance and reporting framework relating to the disclosure of unauthorized, irregular, and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. This was informed by National Treasury Instruction Note 4 of 2022-2023. The major changes that are noted is that there was a movement in the disclosure note of irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure from the annual financial statements to the annual report. The only item or amount that is disclosed in the annual financial statements is the amount that is actually incurred in the current year, as well as one comparative year. And then the historical balances are completely removed from the annual financial statements. So our message to the committee is that the change to remove this disclosure means that oversight structures might not be able to fully exercise their oversight roles, and no audit assurance is provided on these additional disclosures that are moved from the financial statements. We have, however, as an organization, decided to continue to audit the amounts that have been disclosed in the annual report. However, and the objective was to ensure that we could still be in a position to report to the users of the financial statements in cases where these historic balances are not complete and accurate. This, however, had no impact on the audit opinion. As previously indicated, we do not provide any assurance on those historical balances anymore. That then brings me to the findings on procurement and contract management. As I previously indicated, there is still significant concern around procurement and contract management within the department. We had various audit limitations on awards. There were findings identified on deviations, conflict of interest, non-compliance with the competitive bidding processes, non-compliance with the quotation processes, and non-compliance under contract management. So in terms of irregular expenditure, you will see that there has been an increasing trend in the closing balance of irregular expenditure, with the total amount incurred for the year being 2.55 billion rand, compared to the prior year's 2.53 billion rand. The irregular expenditure is as a result of various breakdown or breaches in the pillars of procurement, being that the awards were not equitable, fair, cost-effective, transparent, and competitive. The majority of the irregular expenditure is due to the use of expired contracts, and the department did attempt to appoint some new service providers. However, these awards ended in arbitration, which further delayed the procurement of new service providers. 100% of the irregular expenditure from the prior year was not investigated, and this impacted on consequence management, hence the finding on compliance relating to consequence management. Unauthorized expenditure, there was no unauthorized expenditure incurred in the current year. However, the balance has not moved significantly over the years. An amount of 14.25 million rand was condoned in the year. However, there was no evidence that the 93.83 million rand has been dealt with. For fruitless and wasteful expenditure, you'll see that there has been a decreasing trend. However, the department has still not performed investigations into the closing balance, which is sitting at 2.7 million rand as at the end of 2022-2023. The majority of the fruitless and wasteful expenditure incurred in the year is as a result of expired stock, as well as interest on settling debts late. I'll move then on to portfolio performance in terms of performance information. You will note that we have a compliance finding relating to the systems that were not effectively implemented to enable the monitoring of progress made towards the achieving of targets and core objectives and service delivery within the department. Information systems refer to both manual as well as electronic systems, and there are instances where the connectivity issues are experienced by the facilities for the capturing of data, which leads to information not being updated regularly, resulting in outdated and inaccurate information being used in reports. In addition, manual systems relating to the verification of data prior to capturing in the electronic system is not performed effectively at all institutions, resulting in misstatements of data at various institutions for a number of performance indicators. The result is that a number of these indicators are not reliable as reported in the annual performance report. The next two slides give an indication of the service, the key service delivery indicators. You will see that for Program 2, District Health Services, the department spent 100% of their budget. However, only 49.3% of the targets were actually achieved. So the targets that are listed here are indicators and targets for key service delivery indicators that were not achieved. Then similarly for Program 4, which is Provincial Hospital Services, the department spent 100% of their budget. However, only 36.4% of their targets were actually achieved, leaving the balance as non-achieved targets. The two key service delivery targets that we identified are listed below, which were not achieved. I'll then hand over to my colleague, Bhavna, who will take us through the flood relief observations, as well as observations done on infrastructure audits and value add audits. Thank you so much. Bhavna, if you can come in, thank you.
Thanks, Adele, Bhavna. Thanks, Erin, Bhavna.
Thank you very much. Very good morning, Honourable MEC, members of the committee, as well as my fellow colleagues from the Auditor General. As mentioned by Erin, my name is Bhavna Singh, and I am a manager for the Performance Audit Business Unit. In terms of the work that we performed this year on a very high level, because the slides have been shared, with regards to flood relief, we performed a real-time audit on the Department of Health's response to addressing the damages caused by the April 2022 floods. And our key observations was that the Department of Health had not approved its disaster management plan. The needs assessment for the flood relief projects was inadequate. There were delays in undertaking flood projects due to discrepancies identified by Provincial Treasury. So that's with regards to your SEM. And then at 2 of the 7 clinics visited, we found areas of poor workmanship. Overall, these findings, the impact of these findings is the slow response of the department left communities having to use alternate facilities in order for them to access their health care. We have highlighted the root causes as well as the actions or recommendations that we saw fit by the department. With regards to the follow-up audit that was done, at the time of tabling management report, we had just received the department's action plan. And that's why it reads as such in terms of the follow-up, that at that point we hadn't done any work on it. But subsequently, during the month of July, we audited the action plan, and we noted that the disaster management plan had still not been approved. In terms of the SEM, there were 9 of the 11 projects that had been awarded, and the 2 were still within the SEM process. Then move on to the next one with regards to infrastructure. Okay, so with regards to the infrastructure audit, this arose from our sector procedures, so it was done transversely across the country. We audited 3 healthcare institutions, being Dr. Pixley, McCord's Hospital, as well as King Edward. At Dr. Pixley, the hospital that started in 2005, was practically complete on the 9th of March 2022, with the current expenditure as at March of 2.6 billion. Although the project had reached practical completion in March 2022, a year later when the team visited the hospital, we realized that there were still delays in completion of the project. That is, in order to move the hospital from practical completion to final completion. And some of those delays were items that were defective, that were raised by the contractor as well as us in previous year audits, as well as incomplete work. We also noticed that there was a delay in the operation of some of the operations of the hospital. For example, the neonatal unit was still not operational, and that was due to the lack of human resources as well as the shortage of equipment. The impact of this is, for example, if you look at the operations, there is the fact that Dr. Pixley is not in full operation is not alleviating the pressure on other institutions like Mahatma Gandhi.
We've highlighted again our causes and recommendations. With regards to the department's implementation of their action plan, it is currently in progress, and we will follow that up in the next financial year. We then move on to Mukwad's Eye Hospital. And this was a project that was awarded for 19 million for a period of 18 months. And it was meant to be complete by December 2021. However, there had been variation orders as well as extension of times, and the completion date moved to the 16th of February. What we noted here is there were outstanding repairs and renovations to the project. For example, the newly laid floors showed areas of bulging, and that made the unit unoperational. That also did not assist with the backlog of the 4,000 cataract operations. And then we also noted things like the installation of the fire detection system was in progress. However, the building had been occupied, and subsequently there was a fire. But luckily, this was it wasn't very big and didn't cause much impact. However, should this fire detection system not be in place, it causes a risk to staff as well as patients should a fire break out again, as well as litigation to the department. And then, as mentioned as well, the delays in the completion of the flooring has affected this Theatre 4. The Theatre 4s remain closed, and it's going to take longer to alleviate this backlog of 4,000 cataract operations. At the time of our audit, the action plan, it was still in progress, and we've highlighted our root causes and recommendations. With regards to King Edward, the project that originally started at 42 million and was set for 20 months, being planned to be completed in 2019, later led to, from 42 million, the project sum increasing to 95 million. And the final completion was achieved on the 17th of May, 2022. Some of the key observations that we noted.
Chair, can we request Erin Sampson to mute?
Can we please get Erin? Can you please mute? Okay, carry on, Bhavna.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. So with regards to the King Edward Hospital, the key observations that we noted here, the reasons for the delays, etc., was that there were delays from the initial design errors and late issuing of information. There was delays in terms of the planned repairs to the main maternity ward. In fact, it wasn't really delayed, the work was not done. Although 12 million had been budgeted, only 380,000 was spent, and that resulted in maternity ward 2 not being operational as well, which touches on the impact. And then we also noted that the newly installed conditioning system as well as the biometric system in the neonatal units were not functioning. The impact, as mentioned, is maternity, the ward wasn't in operation, it was in a poor condition. Then the non-functioning of the air conditioning could result in warranties and guarantees lapsing, with additional expenditure being incurred by the department for repairs, and also there could be security risk in terms of unauthorized access. And then move over to those who are our infrastructure audits. Also, as part of the sector transversal audits, we did Ideal Clinic And the purpose of this audit was to determine on a very high level the current status of the implementation of the ideal clinic realization and maintenance program in the province. And then it was to determine whether the selected non-negotiable vital items and vital elements are present and functioning at selected facilities. When I mentioned these non-negotiable vital and vital items, I'm talking about 3 non-negotiable vital items and 27 vital items that we tested at 3 institutions, being Pamsani, Maduleni, and Kairishle. We added statistics to say the percentage of these and during the fourth quarter, all 3 of these clinics had regressed from their third quarter when the district's perfect permanent team for ideal clinic realization, when they did then move on to what we scoped in as a province-specific audit, and that was due to the risk that we found, and that was for emergency medical services. Here we conducted an audit at 3 districts, being eThekwini, Ilembe, and Zululand, and we focused on the efficiency and effectiveness of ambulance medical services, because of course this is critical for patients to receive timely and quality interim care until they receive hospital treatment. Our key observations here were with regards to response times, availability of ambulances, prescribed essential life support equipment not being available in ambulances, concerns around hygiene and compliance, as well as equipment and resource usage. Just on a very high level, because this was something that was very specific to our province. With regards to the response time, where the norm was set at 30 minutes for urban areas and 60 minutes for rural areas, we found for our sample selected at eThekwini, 60% of the response times range from 90 minutes to 12 hours. At Ilembe, 73% of the response times range from 2 hours to 15.5 hours. And at Zululand, 100% of those response times range from 90 minutes to 11 hours. In terms of the availability of the ambulances, we've given statistics as to those ambulances that have exceeded their useful life, being over the threshold, apologies, of 200 or 250,000 kilometers. Those ambulances that were not available, because we've highlighted those ambulances that were not available because they were at repairs or services. And then we've also highlighted that these 3 districts received 7, 2, and 4 ambulances, respectively, although there was 43 and 4 ambulances that had been written off during the year. So, we were just trying to understand how much we had lost versus how much we had gained. The finding goes on to talk about important things like equipment and resources under point number 5, where items such as oxygen cylinders didn't have gauges. So, there could be the possibility where a patient comes in and is in dire need of oxygen, and because there's no gauge there, a gauge that's not operational, there could be the possibility that a patient would not be able to receive this oxygen. So, those items are listed in terms of our impact. We've given our root causes as well as recommendations. Going to pause there. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Bhavna. Colleagues, I just want your guidance here. Should we take the presentation on ADA as well, and then you raise questions of clarity, or do you want to speak? Colleagues, I just want some guidance on this. Do we do ADA as well and then take all questions thereafter, or do you want to do Cover Health and then go to ADA?
Let's do ADA, Chair, just in case we
Run over time.
run out of time. Yes, thanks.
Okay, fine. So let's do the.
Sorry, Chair.
Who is that?
It's Erin from the AG.
Yes.
We still have a few slides left. I'm not sure if you would like us to continue.
Yes, continue and then go to the presentation on ADA as well. Colleagues will be flagging their questions and they will ask everything at the end.
Thanks so much, Chair. This slide is on information technology. I'd like to hand over to Sipumle from our office to share the inputs. Thank you.
Sipumle?
Thank you very much, Erin, honorable members. Thank you for the opportunity to present our findings. As part of the information systems audit that was conducted at the Department of Health, we decided to bring forward one pertinent finding, which has a theme that runs across most of the financial audit areas, especially around document management, and also touches on some of the AOPO KPI recognition as well as documentation. So what we had then noted is that in 2019, the KZN Department of Health started or embarked on a strategic project to implement what was then termed an e-health system. This system would essentially be a full in-house electronic patient records management system. The purpose of the system was then to consolidate the complete patient records management journey end to end. Understanding that historically, the department has had issues with regards to the management of patient records, and this also infiltrating and impacting on the legal cases that the department faces, as well as then legal claims. What we found then is that in the implementation of this project of the e-health system, that the system was meant to be implemented at 70 hospitals in the province, being completed by the end of the 23-24 financial year end. However, what we then noted is that due to poor ICT project management, at the time of our audit, only 8 hospitals, eight hospitals still did not have the required infrastructure rolled out to them, with only 18 facilities partially utilizing the system and no facility that was fully utilizing the e-health system. You'll note from our finding that we were unable to actually even quantify how much money was spent for the implementation of the e-health system, and this is mainly due to the poor ICT project management. So the department was unable, or because of the poor planning, they were unable to almost ring fence what project costs went into the implementation of this ICT project, as well as the fact that the project or the system was being developed internally. The impact of this we noted as that manual patient records are currently maintained at all health facilities in the province. The lack of a fully implemented and functional electronic patient records management system has then resulted in extended patient waiting times, missing or damaged patient files, and the department struggling to defend itself against medical legal claims. We've noted the cause as that there was no framework implemented for the monitoring of ICT projects, especially those that deal with systems development. And then lastly, in terms of our recommendations, we did provide recommendations that proper project management practices need to be implemented, along with the tracking and monitoring of the costs associated with this e-health system, as at this stage we are unable to actually quantify that. And I think that would be something that is quite noteworthy in terms of the implementation of systems in general in the province. Additional to that, we then noted some significant ICT issues that require intervention within the department. And these we assessed at the department and as well as at institutions or health institutes within the province. We noted that there were deficiencies in the information technology governance, particularly when it relates to the fact that the activities align to the overall departmental objectives due to a lack of IT governance framework and comprehensive ICT strategy for KZN Department of Health. Also, that there was insufficient staff within the ICT Directorate due to the revised ICT organizational structure not being approved. We also noted deficiencies with regards to the digital health strategy, and particularly this digital or e-health system would aid this digital health strategy. Also noting that the inefficiencies with regards to the management of medical legal claims or the medical legal claims system utilized. Touching on data quality, I think Erin had also mentioned as part of the AOPO project that there are delays in accessing information stored in IT systems due to unreliable and incomplete information relating to system downtime and IT incidents. And lastly, a special audit that we did in the current year was the assessment of software asset management or on the intangible side, where we noted here is that running tools on the department's network, we noted that there was an inadequate IT asset register that has then resulted in the department not being able to accurately account for software assets. And this also would then lead to us not being able to quantify definitely how much the department is spending with regards to IT softwares being run within the department. I think, Erin, that's it from our side as it pertains to the ICT audit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sipumne. I'll then move on to material irregularities that have been raised in the department. Over the years, from the implementation of our revised PAA, the department has had a total of 3 material irregularities issued to them. 2 of those have been resolved, and 1 is still outstanding, in which we have identified that the accounting officer has taken appropriate actions, and we are just following up on that. The observations from the MI process that has been implemented, that is that financial losses that have been incurred by the department are currently being recovered, and there have been disciplinary processes implemented, and where necessary, internal controls have been improved. With regards to conclusions and recommendations, I'll take them as being read, because I did notice that the department in their presentation has given detailed responses to the findings that have been raised, and the root causes we have already discussed in the presentation. Thank you so much, Chair. That brings you to the end of the Department of Health's presentation.
Thank you very much, Erin. Colleagues, I trust that you have been making notes. There are quite a few issues, although there has been progress on the part of the department. Let's move to the Agribusiness Development Agency now.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So for Agribusiness Development Agency, I hope that you can see the slides on the screen. And
yes, they are visible, Adele.
Thank you so much. So in terms of the accountability ecosystem at Agribusiness Development Agency, I'll just highlight some of the strengths and weaknesses identified. So with regard to the accounting authority and senior management, we found that the chief executive officer position was vacant. However, there was an official acting during the period. And then also management did not ensure that the entity complied with all applicable laws and regulations. And as a result, we identified a few material non-compliances during the current year's audit. When it came to audit committee and internal audit unit, they were in place. Audit committee did have all their required meetings, and we also used the work of internal audit for our risk assessment process during the audit. So if we look at ADA, in the current year, unfortunately, their overall audit opinion regressed. In the previous year, they had obtained a clean audit opinion. It's financially unqualified with material findings on compliance with legislation. The non-compliance was with regard to the financial statements, where material adjustments were made during the audit process. Then we also had non-compliance on revenue management in terms of inadequate processes to manage the collection of debtors. And then under procurement and contract management, there was also a number of findings, but one that was material. I'll just move on to the next slide, which gives a little bit more detail on the procurement and contract management. So you can see there were also findings on deviations, conflict of interest, and contract management, but those were not material. The material finding was with regard to the quotation process, where a contractor was appointed that did not meet the requirements in terms of the CIDB regulations. So in terms of the root causes and recommendations, the root cause is the slow response from management in addressing the provision for credit losses, as well as inadequate review of the financial statements and supporting schedules. They also were falling short in terms of monitoring compliance with laws and regulations. I know that they have prepared an action plan taking these recommendations into account. And then there were weren't really any commitments in the previous year, as there were no significant matters due to them receiving a clean audit in the previous year. So it was just 3 material non-compliances, and I think they will try and put appropriate measures in place to address that. That's the presentation for ADA. Thank you.
Thanks.
Chair.
With the Agribusiness Development Agency, there doesn't seem to be too many issues. And I think the focus here must be on what they will do to achieve that clean audit, because they've achieved an unqualified. But let me open to you, colleagues, by show of hands for any questions of clarity, etc. We're seeing the department at 10. So issues pertaining, to the department, you'll obviously raise there. I must point out, though, that I looked at their presentation, and quite a lot of work seems to be done by the department. For example, the material irregularities, they've cleared 2, and it's the 22 one that is still underway. So you can actually see that the department is trying. Let me open the floor to you, colleagues. I see the hand of Honorable Taylor.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Greetings to yourself, honorable members on the platform, and all the colleagues from the AG's office and everyone that's in the meeting. Chair, I think you have nipped this whole thing in the bud. But for me, I think the biggest crisis that we are faced with is the issue of funds within this department. because you can see that they do have elaborate plans, like their ICT a program, which I think it was the time frames that they had given themselves was just too short for the type of work and the immense type of work. You can see really there's no project manager who can actually advise them on how best to run these IT projects. And all the things that they found out, your EMS, I think for me, the scariest part is the ambulances. I think but it's not for the AG to respond on. It's what the department what is the department going to do to deal with the issues of the response times. But really, we know that the department's biggest problem is funds. But there are minor things that really makes you to be scared. Look at how beautiful Pixelgaseme is, but we still have little snags that are really critical for the running of the hospitals. But as you said, you can see that there is a willingness on the part of the department to try and improve. Thanks, Chair. Is to just thank the report and the AG's report. Thanks.
Thanks, Honorable Tkele. You know, I can see the hand of Honorable Kulu. Is there anybody else? I don't want to miss anyone out. Okay, Honorable Kulu.
Thank you, Chairperson, and greetings, honorable members, and to our AG staff and all our officials present. For me, I wanted just to appreciate the prompt response by the department when AG raising issues. I think for me, in the main, I wanted just to appreciate that, because, you know, starting a day with huge issues, it's actually demoralized even the committee members while we are busy just working there. But for me, it is just to appreciate the prompt responses in all the issues that were raised by the AG to the department. Thank you.
Chair, are you still there, or you've muted
Yes,
yourself?
sorry, Honorable Tkele, I just got a bit distracted. Okay, colleagues, last chance, and then we'll hand over to the Office of the Auditor General. Okay, let's hand over to you, AG and your team. AG and your team, will hand over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to everyone. I'm just going to ask Erin to respond. Erin? I'm not sure if Erin has lost connect. There you go.
No, I'm here. Good morning. I don't think there were any questions for us. I think the members were praising the efforts done by the department. We've completed our presentations for the respective departments. Chair, I'm not sure. I think we can proceed with the balance of the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin. Would that be the same for agribusiness?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, so I can see another hand. I'm just trying to check who is this, or is it a legacy hand?
It is Babu Zulu, Zwile.
Mr. Zulu.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members. You requested us that each time we have such meetings, we provide our report. And I think there's a slide that talks about us coming from AG and the work of the internal audit that got cut. I hope members will deal with that, but we must report to you. One, the positive is that the department was able to deal with one critical finding of AG from the previous years on asset valuations. That was done and successfully done, and we are happy about that. that's a positive that we can bring, and we commended the department for having resolved that item, which was long outstanding. But more than anything is the fact that the department itself has implemented the resolution. I think it's the resolution of 2019 that it must have its own internal audit unit. As it has been reported by AG that it started in December last year, which affected our audit plan, because if we have an audit plan, we are expected to ensure that that audit plan is finalized on time and all the projects are running as expected. That intervention was a disturbance on our part, but we hope that going forward it will be resolved, because the department itself has already started to do its work and it's reporting to us, but most of the projects have not started because the department has identified 21 outsourced internal audit companies that will be assisting the department. We are monitoring that. We are a bit concerned about it, but we'll monitor it as we go along, because we feel that it's very critical that we start considering the insourcing rather than the outsourcing. But it's a view of the department that they are outsourcing, but we'll ensure that we monitor that as we are continuing as playing oversight in that particular department. It's only internal audit that is the now insourced. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thanks, Mr. Zulu, for that input from the internal audit side of it. Colleagues, are there any other issues?
Chairperson, I'm sorry, man.
Who is this? Honorable Kulu.
Yes. I wanted just to check on the issue of ADA, though it wasn't a huge issue. But I wanted just to check on the AG. After picking up the issue of the quotation issues, the financial statement issues, are there any improvement? Is there anything that has been done or submitted on those two, and the consequence management on the issue of that unqualified contractor on quotations? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Kulu. Can we hand over to you, Adele?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. So there has been some consequences management and disciplinary action taken against the official who caused that non-compliance to take place. And then they do have an action plan in terms of the financial processes as well at the organization. Thank you.
Chair, I think you're on mute.
Does that address the issues for you, Honorable Kulu?
Yes, Chairperson, and thank you.
Okay. Colleagues, we have 2 minutes left. I'm suggesting that we hold all questions now. We can take them to the departments or the department and the entity. We're starting with the Department of Health. So let's just adjourn and then, well, I say adjourn, what I mean is we'll now transfer into the hearing. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Kabo, how are we with the department here? Don't see them in as yet. Okay, I can see some of the officials. Kabo, can you just check? I don't see the HOD here and the MEC. I'm sure they are still logging in. We've got a bit of time.
Good morning, Chair. I'm Sandile Shabalala. I've logged in.
Welcome, HOD. Tell me, is the MEC going to be coming?
MEC is joining. As far as I know, we spoke last night. We spoke in the morning. She is joining. May I just check also on the side?
Okay, fine.
Thank you, ma'am.
Kabo, can you in the meantime just flight the agenda for the meeting? Okay, fine. I can see it. I think, colleagues, whilst the HOD is just checking, let us commence. And HOD, just give us a heads up when the MEC is in, so we'll know. Okay? But I think in the meantime, we can start. So, colleagues, this is the hearing with the Department of Health. And we must, at the outset, welcome all of you to the meeting and to say that we recognize the presence of members of SCOPA who are present, as well as members of the Portfolio Committee who are also with us. We also have with us representatives of the Office of the Auditor General. The Provincial and Audit and Risk Committee is represented here as well in the meeting. And I'm not sure, we may have Treasury. We have support staff from the legislature, and I think I've recognized the colleagues from the Portfolio Committee. So we basically have a full house, and everybody is welcome. We've got representatives from the Department of Health. HOD has indicated that he's present, and the MEC will be joining us shortly. So item 2 on the agenda, colleagues, is attendance and apologies. We have received an apology from Honorable Majola, Nomakiki Majola, who has a death in the family, Kabo, and an apology from Honorable Speedler Sapeta, who is on an organizational commitment. Are there any other apologies, Kabo?
No, ma'am. Those are the only 2 apologies.
So we are covered with the 2 that I've raised.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Thank you. All right, then we go to constitution of the meeting. I think in terms of the Portfolio Committee, we are duly constituted and quorate, so we can proceed with the meeting. Let me then ask for someone to move for the adoption of the agenda, which is in front of you, and a seconder, please. A mover and a seconder, please.
We raised our hand, Chair.
Honorable Kele
moves.
Okay, Honorable Kele moves. A seconder, please. I'm not seeing hands. Can we have a seconder for the adoption of the agenda? Honorable Bapti. Thank you very much. Okay, so we then go to the next item. HOD, you will be comfortable with. HOD, is the MEC logged in as yet?
Honorable Chair, it seems she has not logged in. I've even sent her a message now to ask her to join.
No, that's fine. You'll indicate to us.
I would have loved that she.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
You will indicate to Kabo when HOD is here, because we'd normally ask her to give us some opening remarks. But
No,
in the meantime, let's proceed.
She logged in, ma'am. She logged in also.
She's logged in.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So let's take the oath or affirmation by the HOD and members of the team who are speaking from the Department of Health and then I'll hand over to the MEC. Let's just start with the oath of affirmation. Oath of affirmation HOD, and you can indicate which members of your team will be speaking for them to do so, and then I will recognize and call on the MEC.
I swear to speak the truth and only the truth. It's Sandile Shabalala. The people that will be speaking in the department will be the CFO, Mr. Kotamani Vilagazi. Kotamani, can you come up?
CFO, and can you please just briefly open your camera just so we can see your face, and then you can close your camera.
It's not a robot, Chair.
You know, these days, Dr. Shabalala, we must make sure. All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Can
Good morning, Chairperson.
hand over
Good
to
morning,
you?
honorable members.
CFO, can you also just briefly open your camera so we see you?
I thought it's open, Chairperson. You still can't see me.
We cannot, but in the meantime, if you can take the oath or affirmation so that we don't waste time. I think you're also muted.
I promise to speak the truth and only the truth.
Okay. Who is next, HOD?
Let me ask, there is Mr. Ndlovu Kajeni.
Yes, morning, honorable members, Chairperson, and HOD and
Same
the
thing
colleagues.
with Ndlovu. Can you just show us your face for a minute and then close? Mr. Ndlovu, fine. Can you take the oath of affirmation? And you can close your camera now.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Indeed, I promise to speak the truth and only the truth. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who is speaking, Dr. Shabalala?
Chair, I wanted to add Mr. Shays, but I don't see him on the list of people. Skananda, are you in?
Okay, if he's not here, and if yes, I can see him.
Good morning, Chairperson, honorable members. Phumelele Shezi, I also swear to speak the truth and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is that the list, Dr. Shabalala?
Yes, I think the others will come in, Chairperson, as and when, if there are questions that we'll need them to add on. Thank you, Chair. Or where is Roger and Jack? I think those are the last two. Sorry, Chair.
It's fine. Can we get the last two? I can see
Roger
Jack
and
Govender and Roger.
Start, Roger.
Roger, if Roger is having some difficulty, let's deal with Jack Govender.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Jack Govender, I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Your mic is on, but I don't seem to be able to hear him. I don't know, IT, if you can just check what's going on. Now he's muted.
I think it's unmuted now. Good morning, Chair, and members of the committee. It's Roger Naidu. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Okay, you'll have to take the oath of affirmation, Roger.
Yeah, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack Govender.
Chair, I'm coming again. I'm not sure whether you can hear me, Honorable Chair.
We can hear you now, yes.
So I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable MEC. I can see that you have logged in. Thank you for joining us. It shows the seriousness with which you take your the issues of oversight. Thank you. We'd like you to give a few remarks, and then we'll go into the presentation by the department. But let us also just commend your department for having made this progress in terms of your audit outcomes, having moved from a qualified to an unqualified with findings audit outcome, Honorable MEC. We want to say that we appreciate the work that you and your department have done to have achieved this outcome. Let me hand over to you.
My mic is off. Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to you. Good morning to the honorable members and HOD and his team. Chairperson, I must actually start. Can you see me, Chair?
Yes, I can. Thanks, MEC.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I must start, Chair, by the last point that you made, that we really were quite happy to receive a changed or different audit outcome from the AG for the first time in many years, close to 15 years actually. It just was showing the dedication and commitment that the HOD, CFO, and the whole team have put into the audit outcomes, and the fact that also the kind of work that we've been doing in the past 2 or 3 years was beginning to bear fruits. So, Chair, really we are quite excited about that. There are a few findings, Chair, that we want to work on. And some of these findings are findings that are repeat findings that we have dealt with in the past few years, and we believe that we probably need to actually deal with them slightly differently this time around. One of those findings that one would want to talk to is the findings that relates to, well, where the AG couldn't really make a finding or couldn't get evidence because they couldn't find files or they couldn't find the information that they needed. Of course, Chairperson, this speaks to the challenge of our record keeping. Hence, it emphasizes our need for e-health, because if we continue to keep our files manually, it means we will always continue to have these challenges, because when you look at our 70 hospitals and 600 clinics, it's just practically not possible to be able to keep all the files manually and think we are going to find them at the time that the AG or any other person for that matter actually wants them. So e-health really will assist us once it has been rolled out in all our facilities in this regard. Of course, Chair, with e-health we started implementing at hospitals, but with the finding of the AG now, we realize that actually we probably need to extend our reach for this financial year to community health centers, because the files that couldn't be found in Essence are in CHCs and not necessarily in hospitals anymore. So we are then going to work towards ensuring that the 22 CHCs that we have, we find a way of putting them in this financial year on the e-health system. Of course, that has financial implications, so we will have to sit down and look at how affordable will it be for us this financially to include them. But we can really understand and see that it is now necessary for us to be able to link the CHCs. In the next financial year, Chair, we will then have to start with the clinics as well, because some of the files are needed from the level of the clinics, and we are not always able to find them. So that's one of the findings that have been recurring for a number of years, and I think now we finally find a way of ensuring that it's actually addressed and dealt with thoroughly. The other finding that the AG spoke to, and I would want to raise to the members, is an issue of realistic target setting, that AG says we are unable, or the department is unable to provide evidence that the targets that have been set by the departments are actually realistic, or where the department is unable to reach its target primarily because the targets that were set were not realistic. We've then decided that we needed to work on that. Of course, that's also another finding that has been recurring. So immediately after we had an engagement with the AG, we started putting our clinical managers together so that really now, once and for all, we are able to put targets that are realistic, targets that we will be able to account for when it comes to the AG and any other body actually that wants to see the kind of work that we do. So we've put the clinical managers together to work on that together with M&E so that they are able to plan. So we will be working on that in the next 3 months. There has been a workshop that also has been conducted in throughout our clusters, and we hope that this workshop will assist in ensuring that we are able to come up with these targets. Of course, these new targets are now going to be implementable in the next financial year. So we are working towards the future. The last point I wanted to raise and speak to Honorable Chair and members is the issue of the cost-cutting measures that we are finding ourselves faced with as a department. The first point is the wage bill. With the wage bill, Chair, we have been instructed that, or we were instructed that we have to fund, or all departments have to fund the wage bill from within our coffers. And if that is to be the point, literally, Chair, that means our current budget shortfall will be by 2.7 billion. So our wage bill will go to 2.7 billion, and that's only on the current staff that we have there. It doesn't speak to those that have passed on, have not been replaced. It doesn't speak to those that have resigned, have not been replaced. Does not speak to CEOs that we are in the process of employing and are strategic in having them in the system. So literally we have a shortfall of 2.7 billion if we are to fund the wage bill from our coffers. Without emphasizing this point any further, Chair, it's clear that we cannot afford this as the Department of Health, especially after the budget cuts that we've had in the past few years that amount to about 7 billion rands from our baseline. Now, we had an engagement with the national minister, who himself has confirmed to us as MECs that he met with the Minister of Finance, and they have agreed that on principle that the Department of Health will not have to fund the wage bill from its own baseline, and we will be exempted from that. I'm just indicating this because the minister yesterday in his media briefing also indicated this matter, but we have not received anything in writing. So I just want members to be aware that should it not happen, it literally means that we will lose about 3 billion rand from our own baseline, and that is something that will cripple this province. Besides that, Chair, what has also been confirmed is that we, from the national level, there are 2 grants that we are going to lose. Well, not lose all the grants, but a budget cut will be implemented there. It's the HIV grant and the hospital revitalization grant, and that cuts across all provinces. So all provinces will have a cut in relation to that, and for us, that speaks to 11%. When we looked at the hospital revitalization grant, that speaks to 90.3 million rands. That will be taken from our grant, and the HIV grant will have a similar amount that will be taken away. Now, the explanation of the minister is that as the Department of Health at national level, they also needed to contribute to the challenge, to the financial challenges that are there, and they decided that the best way of contributing is cutting from these 2 grants and handing over to Treasury, to National Treasury. Of course, we understand that they needed to make that contribution, but we still believe that the health sector is one of the sectors that should never be afforded, or that should never be affected in that particular fashion, Chair, because it really affects the lives of our people. So the cut of the grants, that matter has been confirmed. It is going to happen. It's only the wage bill that has not been confirmed as yet. And Minister yesterday confirmed, well, assured us in principle that they have agreed with the Minister of Finance, but we have not received anything in writing. So we will wait for guidance from the Minister, Chair. But I wanted to emphasize the fact that if we are expected, or should we be expected to actually fund the bill, the wage bill ourselves, it will really cripple us. Thank you very much, Chair. Those are the 2 points that I wanted to raise.
Thanks, Honorable MEC. We'll hand over to your team, and as they're getting ready, we'll ask that they flight the presentation. But I want to point out, Honorable MEC, that in terms of the department, you have received an unqualified audit, which we welcome. It's the first time in a long time that the department has achieved such an outcome. However, in terms of your performance report, where the AG audited 2 programs, there has not been the same progress. There's been a disclaimer on program 2 and a qualified on program 4. And then in terms of compliance with legislation, there has been progress in terms of your annual financial statement, but in terms of the rest, you've still had findings on expenditure management, strategic planning, consequence management, procurement, and contract management. The reason I'm raising this is not to downplay the achievement of the unqualified audit, but to say that just as you received that, if these issues and findings are not addressed, it could be very easy to lapse back into a qualified, and I don't think that as the province, this is something that is desirable. There are also issues, the same issues that are raised continuously around medical legal claims. There's issues around, as I've said, expired contracts and the issue of payment within 30 days. We are also mindful that sometimes departments don't pay service providers by the end of the financial year, and those funds get into the next financial year as accruals. And of course, there are various findings around, repeat findings around procurement and contract management. There are 9 issues that have been raised by the AG, and they range from the cost of quotations to non-compliance with the preferential point system, to contractors not being registered with the CIDB, local content regulations not being complied with, conflict of interest with staff, where contracts have been awarded and staff have not disclosed whether they have an interest or whether family members are related. And there are other issues, of course, the issues around IT as well, which you yourself have alluded to, are important, and we need to see what progress can be made. Because part of the problem with the department, even in sorting out things like investigations, is records management. And, as you say, the e-health system will go a long way towards addressing this. So these are some of the issues. I've just raised them briefly. Colleagues will raise the others, but let me hand over to your team to start the presentation. Dr. Shabalala.
Thank you, Chairperson. I kept quiet, thinking maybe MEC would have wanted to say something before we go on. I do not know whether that is so. MEC may.
No, you can proceed, actually.
Thank you, MEC. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to the honorable members, and good morning to our MEC and the colleagues. Honorable Chair, the matters that you've just spoken to now are matters that are on the report. Yes, you are correct. They were matters raised by AG. They are on the report, so I'm not going to speak to them. I'm going to ask that we flight the presentation and we go through them. Then we will continue according to your guidance. The presentation will be led by Mr. Vilakazi, our CFO, Roger, who is flighting the presentation, is CFO or yourself? Can someone flight it? CFO, you can start.
Actually, I will flight it. Just a quick one. Do we want the presentation or should I present the report itself?
The report itself. The report
Okay.
itself, as we presented it yesterday.
Thank you very much. Okay.
You may start, Kochi.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, honorable members, MEC, HOD, and colleagues. I am going to present the report as flighted, and I will indulge in switching off the camera. I hope I'm audible.
That's fine. We'll tell you when we can see the presentation. Right, fine, we can see it.
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat what the Auditor General has reported in terms of the opinion paragraph, as well as the letter that is issued by the HOD, which is addressed to the SCOPA. And the basis of opinion, and then I'm going to go straight to the findings or issues that were raised by the Auditor General. It's not a modified opinion, but they draw our attention to emphasis of matter as well as other matters. Emphasis of matter is around the medical legal claims, the uncertainty of the amount, the timing of payment, and the probability as to whether the payment will ever take place or not. So this is normally based on estimates. When we estimate, we use history, we use the number of claims on record or letters of demand, and the rate of success or conclusion of such letters that end up being converted to awards or settlements. We engage the opinions of experts such as legal and medical experts. So the judgment that is used by the management to determine the provision or the likely exposure is the figure that gets arrived at, but it cannot be raised as a provision because of the modified cash basis. AG decided to issue an emphasis of matter across the country to all those who have medical legal claims and they cannot estimate with certainty as to how much will be paid in future. They recognize our efforts and our methodology. The methodology that was an issue in the previous year has effectively and eventually been agreed upon and is communicated and understood by the AG to be a standard that we can go with in calculating the figure that we disclose in the notes to the financial statement as far as medical legal claims are concerned. We have 1,700 summons, 56 were received by the department in 2023. This then will indicate to the members that some summons are old. They end up not being followed up in certain instances. But then there are those that end up in courts and in settlements and in awards. Given an idea of the 7 billion, less than 200 million ended up being settled. So it's not an easy exercise of judgment. Other matters, I'll draw to your attention on other matters that the payables that are supposed to be made within 30 days as required by Treasury regulations were sitting at 212 million rand at 31 March, but the amount that was surrendered back was 5.9 million rand, and these were exceeding 30 days, which then means the difference between 212 and 5.9 of 206 million rand would have resulted in unauthorized expenditure, in the sense that it's the money that was not necessarily available for the Department of Health to make payments. We need to appreciate that there were some pressures in making payments, but we had not recognized the payables because we only recognize or record the expenditure when we pay, because we're using a modified cash basis system. And thank you. I'm also then going to move on from emphasis of matter, which had those two issues and other matters. There is compliance and reporting framework, the National Treasury instruction. There was incurrence of irregular expenditure, which we were required to disclose for the comparative figures, which is the year ended 31 March 2022, as well as those that were incurred in the current year ended 31 March 2023. It should be noted that the change in the disclosure requirement by National Treasury is now not requiring us to disclose the irregular expenditure that was incurred in the years prior to the previous year. So we only disclose the 2 years, current and prior year. Then the unaudited supplementary schedule, they talk responsibility of the accounting officer. The accounting officer is to present the financial statements that are free from any material misstatements and to do an assessment as to whether the department is a going concern, so that in the case it's not a going concern, the basis of preparing financial statements may change to that of a liquidation nature. Our response is that the department is fully funded by both equitable and conditional grant, equitable share and conditional grant, and it's envisaged that the department will continue to operate in the foreseeable future. The foreseeable future is the 12 months that comes after the financial year end of 31 March. Reports on the audit of annual performance reports. I'm on matter number 20, finding number 22. The Auditor General was not provided with supporting evidence for the items that they were identifying, and they arrived at material differences between what was actually on record and what was arrived at as what they believe should have been arrived at and disclosed based on the evidence that was afforded to them. So the recorded achievements could have been less than what we have reported because it could not be supported with all the evidence they required at that point in time. Our response to that as the department is to enhance the filing system, ensure the date of birth and health patient registration system become the standard. And each patient will only have one folder which is used for clinical record keeping at a facility level, and it's kept up to date. The system managers ensure archiving disposal plan for patient record is implemented. And on an annual basis, we ensure that there is sufficient storage area that is going to allow us to store records as well as retrieve them within a short space of time. The department will then, in that case, be able to provide the necessary evidence as and when the auditors or any other interested bodies require them. An audit improvement plan is focusing on compliance measures as well as attending to the identified gaps during the audit. And this is a continuous process. We'll be intensifying daily, weekly, monthly data verification between source documents, summary, and looking at the supporting evidence for such information. COs, facility managers, district directors to complete and submit revised data sign-offs, and this was implemented in August. Facility support, where audits will be conducted on quarterly data, and furthermore, the department will ensure that there is alignment of the annual reports to the records and data prior to the submission of information for audit purposes. One audit will be conducted, which is more like a dry run to ensure the preparedness and readiness of the department in this regard. Ideal clinic status rate, an achievement of 93.4% was reported against a target of 80.1%. AG could not determine if the reported achievement was correct due to supporting evidence that was not provided. In addressing that, at district health, AG was met and it was explained how the ideal clinic assessment works. An ideal clinic was undertaken, and during this assessment, the AG was invited to observe the process undertaken, the process of assessment in this case. The engagement was undertaken in the interest of fostering a working relationship which is closer with the AG and to enhance understanding so that everyone can be on the same page. The standard operating procedures that guides assessors on conducting assessment was developed. There's both online and offline version. Orientation session for the district ideal clinic realization and maintenance program teams. Those were scheduled for 11 to 12 October 2023. Provincial health services, same as previous. The Auditor General did not agree with the actual achievements that was recorded. They estimated that those were actually more. They only work on the provided evidence. So the same improvement initiatives that were taken on the issue of ideal clinic as well as district health services are also going to affect the improvement on the findings reported in provincial hospital services. We move to other matters on the audit of performance information. The annual performance report includes the following service delivery against planned targets. The planned targets and the reported achievement had the difference. Where the achievements did not meet the planned target, there is going to be revising of the achievements to confirm that they are based on realistic targets. The target setting will be in line with the budget because the budget is an enabler of implementation and achieving what has been set. Quarterly reviews as well as annual review to improve specific program performance and to also address issues where the targets were not reached are going to be undertaken. Material misstatement. Material statements were reported between the performance information of district health services and provincial hospital services programs. Management did not correct all of the misstatements and reported material findings in this regard. It doesn't say not all were. It doesn't say all findings were not corrected. It's actually some findings. And members need to appreciate that information submitted on the deadline of 31 March, on the deadline of 31 May, giving us the status quo as a 31 March, which is the year end, is supposed to be not materially adjusted once the Auditor General starts conducting the audit. If they pick up information that requires material adjustment, they then disclose it in the management report as information that may have been misstated by 31 March. So once they raise those issues, they require the management to make adjustments. And those material adjustments made after the 31st of March will still be reported upon as material adjustments. And whether adjustments are made or not, there is still also going to be a report that says the management did not make those required adjustments that were suggested by the Auditor General. Compliance with registration, with legislation reports. Effective and appropriate steps were not taken to prevent irregular expenditure as required by Section 38 of PFMA and Treasury Regulation 9.1.1. Majority of irregular expenditure disclosed in the financial statement was as a result of continued use of payments made on expired contract. The delays in finalization of man-to-man contracts are mainly due to factors outside the control. Some of the awards are challenged, and while they are challenged, we can't continue to procure, for example. While there are challenges, we can't continue to procure from the recommended bidders. If there's any appeal from any bidder, we have to stop. But life still continues. Hence, we end up procuring on a man-to-man basis, resulting in irregular expenditure. Payments were not made within 30 days or agreed upon period with the suppliers. We've embarked on a widespread communication with suppliers, alerting them on the issue of likely non-compliance with payments made within 30 days, especially because we are migrating to implement Logis. Logis is a very effective system in many ways, including identifying payments that are going to miss the repayment period of 30 days. Furthermore, we are proactive as a department, and we are using payment cycle reports on a monthly basis. Head office managers, district finance managers receive instruction, and then they investigate all the delays that affect the payment of suppliers and service providers within 30 days. Procurement and contract management. AG was unable to obtain sufficient appropriate evidence that all contracts were awarded in accordance with legislative requirements. As a result, poor records management. We have embarked on an extensive process of digitizing as many records as possible in order to improve filing and access to information, as well as to improve the requirement for physical space for filing purposes. Some of the quotations were not awarded in economical manner, and the prices of goods or services were not reasonable as required by PFMA. We have developed the standard operating procedure. The awarding authority is mandated to confirm and assess whether the price offered for the goods or services is within reasonable limits. This is now to ensure that we don't pay excessive prices whenever we procure or acquire. And those that supply us will also engage on negotiating for price. Some of the goods and services of a transaction valued above $1 million were procured without inviting competitive bids, and deviations were approved by the accounting officer, but it was practical to invite competitive bids. The department has followed the due process of authorizing deviations based on the assessment of each circumstance that prevailed at that point in time. We continue to minimize the number of deviations and to ensure that all the deviations are within the prescripts of the regulations as well as the legislation. We've increased the capacity at SCM, demand management, and we also have the focus utilization and need for various services done more accurately. Some of the contracts were awarded to bidders based on evaluation criteria that were not stipulated and or differed from those stipulated in the original invitation for bidding and quotations as required by Treasury regulation. There's training of bid committees starting from tender specification or bid specification committees. Those have taken place at the head office, and this training and workshop affects all committees that are included in the value chain, all the way up to bid evaluation committees, as well as SCM practitioners. We've engaged the National School of Governance. We've engaged Treasury on the courses that they run. We've sent our practitioners there. That also includes training on prevention, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, among other training courses embarked upon recently. And then when we perused various reports by the Auditor General, it was identified that this finding was only reported for the first time in 22-23. It is not a repeat finding. The preference point system was not applied in some of the procurement of goods and services as required by Section 2 of the PFMA and Treasury regulations. Similar non-compliance was also reported in the prior year. An updated standard operating procedure was implemented. Roadshow were undertaken. The training of bid committees also undertaken in various aspects, as well as at district and SCM practitioner level. They couldn't obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence that the construction contracts were awarded to contractors that were registered in the CIDB. We've now made it mandatory that CIDB registration printout are kept in project files for audit purposes. Bid documents or invitation to tender for procurement of commodities designated for local content and production did not stipulate the minimum threshold for local production and content as required by the 2017 procurement regulation. This regulation no longer have this require. The new regulation no longer have the local content requirement beginning of last year. The response of the department, persons in service of the department had private business interest in contracts awarded by department, did not disclose their interests. Similar non-compliance was reported previously. There is a requirement for declaration of interest by DPSA. The latest standard operating procedure stipulates that we confirm through the CSD report that there is no conflict of interest before we award tenders. We also have undertaken to monitor compliance with legal prescripts. We have implemented mandatory checklists that must be adhered to in preparation of the bid quotation documentation and also the downloading of CSD report as already stated above. In respect of instances where AG had through their CATs identified officials where there was a conflict of interest due to them doing business with the state, the cases are being investigated and will thereafter be referred to the Department of Labour for implementation of consequence management. In this regard, a total of 15 cases were referred for investigations, 4 were completed, 11 are still under investigation. And once finalized, they will be referred to the respective bodies for the implementation of the disciplinary action and recommendations emanating from such investigation. Persons in service of the state, of the department, whose close family members, partners, or associates had a private business or interest in contracts awarded by the department failed to disclose such interests. We don't have tools to verify information prior to the award of contracts. When that information is brought to our attention by AG or any other party, for example, we have a whistleblowing service, appropriate action is taken and investigation is also taken and followed up to the recommendations thereof. There is no evidence that disciplinary steps were taken against officials who had incurred unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. This was due to proper and complete records that were not in as evidence to support the investigations into authorized irregular, fruitless, and wasteful. Like before, record keeping, security of information, integrity of data is going to be improved through the implementation of electronic records. The fact that the transaction is reported as fruitless and wasteful does not necessarily mean there was an act of commission, wrongdoing. One example is department is supposed to keep minimum quantities of stock, and in that case, when there was no taking or issuing of such stock, it may go and expire, but it has to be retained as a procedure. In addressing the finding, more specifically, the issues regarding document management, we have implemented measures to strengthen document management control systems, among others, having supporting documents uploaded on time and taking corrective and punitive measures in this regard as indicated. We also have a loss control committee. We also require people to account for incurring fruitless and wasteful expenditure. So with the improvement there, going to be able to have accessible evidence as required by the Auditor General. In compliance with irregular expenditure framework, we've undertaken a determination test on all irregular expenditure that was disclosed to analyze particulars of non-compliance and to establish the facts and losses, if any, relating to the transaction, and to collect information related to the identification of the root causes, who is responsible, the loss suffered, any breakdown in the desired internal control. Once this has been finalized, an investigation will be undertaken. If there is any suspicion of possible fraud, corruption, or crime that may have occurred in the incurrence of that irregular expenditure, it is then referred for the investigation. If the investigation concludes that the wrongdoers the officials must be brought to book and consequence management processes be implemented, such steps get taken. So all that applies to fruitless and wasteful expenditure as well. Strategic planning and performance management. Specific information systems were not implemented to enable monitoring of progress made towards achieving targets, core objectives, and service delivery as required by public service regulation. While the department has implemented several measures to address this finding and to ensure the verification and validation of information captured, there are still areas of need in the form of resources, monitoring, record management, IT services, and connectivity. In addressing that, there's an audit improvement plan, there's an action plan, there's implementation of adequate standard operating procedures in facilities. We are reviving the HPRS and standard registration system. We are improving on the filing, accessing of files, and we're providing support to all facilities. We've acquired the services of Telkom for connectivity, and then we are also waiting for the Minister of Communication to give us approval due to CETA Act mandatory nature of the WAN provision. So once all that is done, systems go and they'll be implementing, filing and archiving. Internal control deficiencies. Management role and leadership oversight did not ensure that we fully implement and address previous audit findings on the predetermined objective, compliance with legislation. Through our response as the department, we have decided to make efforts. Over the past 3 years, we have overturned the findings following the prior qualifications, particularly on the components of the financial statements, and we're also going to align the budget with the targets that are set by the department, intensify the monitoring, and implement effective internal control procedures, and we assess adherence to those on a continuous basis. Management did not implement proper document management and record keeping, did not ensure overall IT control environment prevails. That includes IT governance, security management, access controls, continuity, backup, recovery, cybersecurity. We have mentioned what we've done with regards to improving document management system, and we also are digitizing our records, and we also embarked on electronic record management system. We're strengthening our IT in the manner that we are procuring IT strategy, we are reviewing IT procedures, we are strengthening our information security, we are also training our personnel and obtaining all the resources we need for backup and recovery. We also have embarked on investigating where we are experiencing any form of cyber attack or cyberbullying, and we have made improvement in identifying gaps and weaknesses in the system, and then we have embarked on strengthening physical access as well as application access controls into our IT environment. Previously, there were material irregularities reported. Procurement of sanitizer, detergent at prices higher than those permissible. There was a price per litre of R1.43 that was paid. The total value was 5.72 million, whereas the price per litre that was regulated was R1.10. So 143 down to 110, which then means there was an excess of 1.3 million rand paid by the department towards the sanitizers. After the SIU intervention, 1.1 has since been recovered of the 1.3 payment. material irregularities identified during the audit: interest on overdue account. There was interest that was charged by the creditors, and that interest was excessive, and there was a civil claim, and then there was a court judgment, and there was settlement. We incurred financial loss as a department of 2 million in relation to interest paid on overdue accounts for not paying within 30 days, and it amounted to non-compliance with Treasury regulation. We realized at some point that the interest charge was incorrectly calculated to a point that the 1.45 million was recovered after the correct calculation was made. And we are currently conducting an inquiry investigation on the remaining balance of 604,000 rand. And the outcome will be communicated as time proceeds. Other reports. Other reports talk about unauthorized work outside the service of the department and the misappropriation of inventories. Investigation covers the period 1 July 2008 to 31 March 2023. 205 cases were handled. 20 have been finalized, 22 closed, 94 completed, 29 reported, 38 allocated for full investigation, and 2 are still at preliminary stages. With your indulgence, Chair and members, may I proceed?
Yes, CFO.
Thank you. Report on the condonation of irregular expenditure. The irregular expenditure mainly relates to the years it was reported before, and we have made application to Treasury for the condonation. They required additional information on condonation, such as supporting documents to the expenditure that was incurred. We appreciate that it dates back to the years, very past years, and then we have embarked on an exercise of trying to establish those documents so we can provide. They need to know what actually happened, how they originated, how much was incurred, all the details that accompany the previously reported irregular expenditure. There is irregular expenditure that was incurred as a result of the SCM process at the IDT at the runtime. Part of that is still sitting on the records of the Department of Health, although it was as a result of the actions of the IDT. Just to give an example of the difficulties in obtaining some of the records to support the irregular expenditure that we have requested, we've applied for condonation of. Consequence management, the investigations that recommended disciplinary processes against employees were implemented. Further, cognizance should be taken of the fact that should a transaction be reported as fruitless and wasteful, it does not automatically suggest that wrongdoing had occurred. Example of which is the minimum quantities of medication that must be kept, then as time progresses, it expires. Report on payment of the KwaZulu-Natal project invoice owed to KZN SIU. We acknowledge that the amount of 4,042,786.75 is owed to by SIU per the invoice or the statement from the SIU. It should be noted that we've effected payment of 829,000 Rand on 11 September 2023. It should also be noted that the proclamation by the President for investigations is one of those expenditures that SIU end up billing us and we had not budgeted for. And when there is recovery, like we have indicated in the previous paragraph, where we recovered more than 1 million, that money does not come back to the Department of Health. Instead, as revenue, it goes to Treasury. And Treasury does not necessarily refund us, but we still have to face the cost of investigation fully without any assistance. It must be noted that we have also embarked on a plea for poverty, which is allowed in case there is proclamation that the SIU can investigate and we do not have the funds to pay the SIU. We issue a letter to Treasury. In that regard, we expect responses, but none of those responses have been received from Treasury, where we are applying for exemption from paying of funds to the SIU. Thank you, Chairperson. It ends there, the presentation.
Thank you, CFO. This has been quite a comprehensive presentation. I must say, I must also just comment, I'm not sure if MEC is still here, but HOD certainly, that when I looked at...
I'm here, Chair.
Thanks, MC. When I looked at what the AG was saying, you can also see that the department is very consciously responding to the issues. And I think this is, how it should be. Colleagues, let me open for your questions or comments to the department. A show of hands, please. Colleagues? Honorable Tulu, I do see your hand. Is anyone else? Okay, let's take you for now, Honorable Tulu.
Thank you,
followed by
Chairperson.
sorry, Honorable Tulu, followed by Honorable Taylor.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and greetings to the HOD and CFO and our MEC present in our meeting. Firstly, let's appreciate the very detailed report with prompt responses from all the AG's questions that have been raised by the AG. You seems to be on everything that has been raised, and then you'll find the prompt responses by the department. I think we must really appreciate the way we have dealt with issues that have been raised. And also, I also want to agree with the chairperson earlier on when, if you look at those, some of the minor issues that have been raised, quite a number of them, please don't drop your guards going forward, because if they are not being taken seriously, they will also push you back to where you used to be 2 years ago. But I think for now, they have done quite well. on the issue of e-health, I think we really need the system, and I'm quite happy when the MEC was reporting on the matter, because it's been quite a lot of criminality that has been happening in the rough issues, where some of these files will go missing and all that. Then when the MEC spoke about the issue of e-health, I think it will actually resolve all these, the loss of files and all these other issues. But I really want to appreciate the prompt responses by the department. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, Honorable Kulu. Honorable Taylor.
Thanks, Chair. Greetings to the MEC, honorable members in the platform, the Auditor General's team, and all the colleagues who are in the platform, the HOD, the CFO. I think, Honorable Chair, Honorable Kulu has covered me in what he was saying, to appreciate the responses that were given by the department, and to also congratulate the department. We know that the CFO is not even too long within the department, and it's been quite a number of things that had been serious issues being raised over the years, and which they are being taken care of. I was going to speak to the issue of e-health and the issue of ambulances, to say that if we can fast track those main issues that are raised, and also, Chair, to say that we understand that the country has financial issues at the moment, as the President and the National Treasury has said. We honestly hope what the MEC said about them being given a chance when it comes to monies. It's going to really go a long way, because as we all know that this department really needs more funding with all the things that are needed to be done by the department. Is to just appreciate, Chair, because there's nothing as frustrating as knowing that there are matters that are raised by the AG and the department seems to not have an interest or have a plan on how they are going to address them. The issues, though, raised by the MEC, I think one way or the other, we must try really and speak to National Treasury and make sure that the monies that are meant to pay workers, those monies are not taken away from the province, as she's saying that it's really going to be a disaster for us. Otherwise, Chair, thank you.
Thanks, Honorable Cele. Honorable Shinga.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings to the honorable members and the team from the AG. I had an issue even prior to the meeting, but I'm happy the MEC addressed the issue of the wage bill. I know the MEC said, because we've just heard from the media briefing of the minister, I think going forward, if we get a document or a letter of commitment from them going forward, just so we know, so that even when the department has to use that money, but it's refunded by Treasury. But all in all, the work that they did in addressing the issues that were flagged by the AG, it shows a commitment, and they took them seriously. Looking at the infrastructure, you know, the strength of the department, they are very big, but they are slowly attending to them. So I thought I will speak to that, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Shinga. Honorable Bhakti, member of the Portfolio Committee. So please do not raise Portfolio Committee issues. Remember, we are looking at the financial and audit issues.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Greetings to you, to the MEC, to the officials, and to colleagues. Chair, all I wanted to say was that the approved audit outcome is most welcome, and congratulations are due in that respect. And I also wanted to express my relief on the news presented by the MEC on the wage bill and the fact that the department may benefit quite tremendously in that respect. It was cause for sleepless nights, and it's just a comment I want to make, no specific question.
Thank you very much for that. Honourable Tulu.
I'm very sorry, Chairperson. What I wanted to check also from the, I think, CFO, I know there were answers on the issue of medical legal claims. When he spoke about, it's about 1,700 cases, if I'm not wrong. If he can maybe give us numbers per year, which are they, because I know they are not all current. And then he spoke about the old cases. So maybe if you can just give us per year, which gives us the whole total of 1,700. So then at least we will know how are we doing in the current financial years. But also there's one thing that I did not want it, I didn't say. When I was quite impressed when the MEC giving the plan, it was a plan with time frames, because I always have a problem when someone gives a plan, but the plan without the time frame, it's like a plan that does not exist. I think I really appreciated her when she was elaborating further on the issues of the plans for the next financial years. Yes, I know some of them, it's like a wish list because of the financial challenges that we are facing, but she has a plan, but the plan with the time frames, I think I was really appreciate that type of reporting. Ngiyabonga kakhulu Sihlalo.
Thanks, Honourable Tulu. I'm not seeing any other hands. I just want to raise the three issues, Honourable MEC. I know they've been dealt with in some regard in the presentation, but these are issues that are not going away. One is the issue of the medical legal claims. Now, we understand that you can't set aside funds because these are not yet funds that have been gone to a court of. However, we were told on numerous occasions that the national ministry was actually looking at some option of an alternate way of dealing with this. And one of the ways was for the department to get into some kind of settlement where treatment to those who have been, offended or whatever, or affected can be done. So rather than payment, there can be an arrangement of treatment in facilities provided by the department. I would encourage the department to actually work on this, because this obviously will settle costs. Part of the issue also is when payment is done and people die, the money goes away. Whereas if there is treatment for injuries or damages sustained, then that is obviously finite. The second one is around procurement. This one is really, really something that has to be taken in hand. You see, this government, led by the ANC, is very strong on empowering local businesses and Black economic empowerment. But when there's non-adherence to regulations around local content, preferential points, as well as the non-compliance in terms of non-competitive bidding, it creates a problem because it crowds out those enterprises that want to enter the market. And I think the Department of Health deals with many service providers, a range. We must create a climate where we can facilitate on a legal basis, in terms of the law, entry of people into the economy. So I think that's something to be looked at. And my last one is that the issue of the e-management, e-record management is really, really important. MEC, when you came in, you did announce a very progressive initiative where you said you were using young students and trainees to initiate these systems. I think we need to look at that given the shortage of finances and see whether that can be done. There are youth programs that are funded by provincial government. Maybe we must encourage this. Lastly, in terms of the material irregularities, I think it is very good in the way in which the department has systematically dealt with them. And you can actually see where there was this amount, a huge amount of 2.9 million. It was a loss, which was material irregularity 2. The department, through its investigations, has been able to get 1.45 million of that refunded. So when these matters are dealt with, there are returns, and we must commend the department for that. They've also been, as a result of these processes of dealing with material irregularities, disciplinary processes being implemented, and we must give credit where it is due. So thank you for that. I'm not sure if colleagues, there are any other hands that matters that people wish to raise. I'm not seeing any hands, and I don't want to cut members off. But if there are no other comments, MEC, you can see, normally with health, it takes a very, very long time. But this time, you can see, yes, in fact, even we had prepared, for a long a session with you, but you can see that your progress in your department is yielding rewards, even time-wise. So thank you very, very much. And perhaps you'd like to make a few closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm quite shocked myself that we are not staying longer than we normally do, but we really appreciate it. We appreciate the comments, Chair, that comes from the honorable members. I think they're really encouraging. They're also very encouraging to the team, the management team that has been working very hard towards ensuring that we change our situation. I think, Chair, even for myself, when I came into the department, to know that we have had a similar situation when it comes to outcomes for more than 10 years. And when I come, the situation still remains the same, was something that was an albatross around my neck. The fact that we are now beginning to see change really, really has assisted us. And I think I want to agree with you, Honorable Tele, that CFO has not been with us more than a year or so, or more than 12 months, but we can really see the impact and with his whole team. So we really appreciate the comments, Chair. I will just comment on two things. The first one is e-health. Chair, when we established and started creating e-health, indeed, we utilized young people from the different universities. We had a hackathon, and therefore, as a result of that, the system that we've started implementing is a system that we own. We don't pay any license fees. We didn't pay anyone to create it. It is actually owned by the Department of Health in KwaZulu-Natal. That on its own, Chair, is saving us millions in terms of licenses that we would have been paying otherwise had we gone and bought a system off the shelf or from someone and requested a consultant to come and create this system for us. So it has really assisted. What we are now doing is rolling out the system in all the hospitals. And what is also assisting what is assisting young people is that when you look at the different hospitals, we also find that the skill in terms of utilizing our computers is not at the same level. So we have to employ a few young people in all these hospitals to assist our nurses, doctors, and any other health worker who is there and needs to be assisted. We found that there are a few people who are there who love to utilize the system, but might not necessarily be tech savvy. And that is where these young people come in to assist. I must, however, indicate, Chair, that the biggest challenge we have had with this system is connectivity. About 2 years ago, Chair, and that's when we started struggling with connectivity. We wrote to SITA. It took a whole year for SITA to respond to us. And after 12 months, we realized SITA was not going to respond in the issue of getting us a company or a contract with whoever was going to assist us with connectivity. We wrote to the minister and requested minister's assistance. We couldn't get any response. We then wrote to the minister eventually to say we are then opting out of SITA because we are now forced to implement this ourselves, because the Act, Chair, the SITA Act forces us to utilize SITA, even though we know how inefficient SITA is. So for us to be able to implement to be able to modify or address the issue of connectivity ourselves, we needed to get permission from the minister. Now, eventually, I believe the minister was not getting the letters we were writing to, but I eventually had a engagement with the minister, and immediately after that he was able to respond. So in the past month or so, we are seeing a serious movement when it comes to the issue of connectivity. So we are happy. That actually means we will then have connectivity in almost all our hospitals, including hospitals that are in valleys where it is very difficult to get connectivity. So we are quite excited about that. So the challenge we have right now, Chair, is connectivity. But once we've been able to sort out the connectivity, we'll be able to move quickly. By the way, the connectivity issue, Chair, is not just for hospitals that are in rural areas. Even hospitals in urban settings. I'll give you an example of Prince Msheni. Prince Msheni also has a challenge of connectivity, primarily because of the size of Prince Msheni and how spread out it is. Sometimes the walls between the different wards are also too thick, so you need to boost your connectivity. It's a similar situation in Matateni and a few other hospitals. So the connectivity matter, yes, applies in rural hospitals, but in our own urban hospitals where you find that the hospital is too spread out and walls are too thick, we needed to boost that connectivity, but we are working on that. Let me just speak to the medical legal claims strategy, Chair. This strategy was meant or is meant to address future medical costs. Let me tell you, Chair, when someone takes us to court, they claim for emotional problems that they have faced, they claim for previous medical costs, but the biggest cost is the future medical cost, because the court must then estimate that a child that was born with cerebral palsy as a result of negligence from a hospital will live for the next say 15 years or 20 years, and if they live for 20 years, this is how much it's going to cost medically the families. And when the court looks at that, they look at medical aid, they look at private doctors, they look at private specialists, and the amount becomes humongous. Hence, we then decided as a strategy to say, when we go to court, we will be the first ones who will offer future medical costs, to say, yes, we might be found guilty in this matter as the Department of Health. We will pay for renovation of the house because the child will not be able to walk up the stairs, and therefore we need to put up a ramp, and the child will be able to utilize the wheelchair as they walk into the house. That can be paid up front. But we as a Department of Health, we want to commit that for future medical costs, we have the skills as a department. We will be able to provide the future medical attention that is needed by this particular child. Now, this is a commitment, Chair, that has not always been accepted by the courts on the basis that we have not proven as government that we actually have the skill. We will have the people who will focus on these particular children and so forth. So if you remember, Chair, about 2 or 3 years ago, we reported that we are implementing something that we call centers of excellence. And in the province, we started with 4. 2 of them are 3 in eThekwini, 1 in Pietermaritzburg, which includes the Children's Hospital, and yes, so we have those 4. And the reason why we wanted to start with those 4 was so that we are clear on how many specialists are needed, what kind of specialists are needed, what kind of services can be provided in those centers. Chairperson, in the past 2 years, we have perfected our centers of excellence. We now have them up and running. We've been able to employ the professionals that are needed, different professionals, because children who suffer from such kind of medical challenges need different kinds of specialists, your physiotherapists, your speech therapists, and so forth. So we have been able in these centers of excellence to employ all of those people. Now, when we go to court, Chair, we are able to say to court, we have centers of excellence. You do not need to award a future medical cost to this patient, because as government, we will be able to provide the future medical cost. And that is a commitment we make to court. Now, it is then up to the court, Chair, to decide whether they accept our offer or not. I must say, Chair, that there is a latest case that where court really, when we presented this particular matter, they were quite excited. They were quite excited and they accepted our offer, but we've not received a decision as yet. So this matter is not necessarily on our hands as the Department of Health. It depends on whether the court accepts this condition. But what we have done as a department is to ensure that we create a conducive environment for court to be able to approve our commitment. And we have made sure that these centers of excellence are actually staffed in a manner that they should be staffed in, and they have all the requisite equipment that is needed by the patients. So I just thought, let me explain the strategy, Chair, because yes, we have planned for it, but at the end of the day, it depends on the judge whether they accept our commitment or not. And when they do accept our commitment, Chair, it really reduces our costs tremendously. Thank you very much, Chair. Can I then request HOD and CFO to take the other questions?
Thanks, MEC. HOD.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, one will cover a few. Most of the assertions by the honourable members were comments which we appreciate and accept. Chair, there is a request by Honourable Olu of us showing the 1,700 cases by year. We're going to do that. Safe to say that most of the cases are cases that happened many years ago or a few years ago, and they are therefore finding their way onto our table for one or other reason, which we are not going to go to, because in some cases we question the very process ourselves. So we will do that. Also, MEC has spoken to the 5-pillar plan that we have of reducing the medical legal claims, and these include the prevention of the happening of these claims. And when we say we are doing consequence management, but also doing workshops and trainings, the aim is to reduce the new cases that we may incur as a department. MEC has spoken to the issue of e-health, and I'm not going to speak to that. Her office is dealing with the Minister of Communications in the country to ensure that we improve on communication, on connectivity. Honourable Cele raised the issue of ambulances. I think that's another issue that we're discussing in terms of, one, the procurement of these ambulances, two, the repair of these ambulances, with an aim of making sure that the number of ambulances that are in circulation is increased. It is not going to be enough very early, Chairperson, because when you look at the population versus an available ambulance, there are many factors that we have to put into that, including the skill that is associated with those ambulances. But there is work we are doing to improve the ambulances in circulation with the relevant skill. So we're continuing to do that. And I think the issue of pay progression that was spoken to by Honourable Shinga was spoken to by MEC as well. Honourable Chair, you touched on medical legal claims, which MEC has spoken about. The issue of preferential procurement, we must say, Chair, the team at Finance and SCM are looking at that, including the issue of preferential procurement by the locals. They are looking at how to make sure that such happens in line with the prescripts, including the disabled women and all the people that are appearing on the prescripts. I think all the other comments were merely comments, Chair. We are going to follow up and do the things that are expected of us. Other than that, I do not have more comments. MEC has covered all of us very well, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. HOD. I think that summarizes it. And I think in closing, we must just, because I don't see any other hands, we must just encourage the department to continue with the work that it is doing on the trajectory that it is following of improvement, particularly in terms of, accounting for your financial management. Because as you tighten up your systems, it will also result in an improvement in the service delivery. Now, we're all aware that there aren't enough funds. So unfortunately, that part of it, there's not much we can do. You have to work with the cards that you have been dealt with. But I must say, and I must commend you and your team, MEC, for the work that you are doing within the constraints that you have. I can say that, there may be other departments that are not working in the same way, where they are showing the initiative to say that, yes, we are having constraints, but we will proceed and make a plan. And I think, that's a particularly South African thing. We do make plans. And so we want to thank you, MEC, and your team, and to encourage you to continue improving your audit outcomes. Thank you very much. We can release you.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, bye to the MEC and the team. Colleagues, our next department or entity, it's not department, entity, is the Agri-Business Development Agency, ADA. And the MEC is going to be coming in, but we are told that they will log in at 12. So I suggest what you do, colleagues, is you can have your tea, coffee, whatever break, and then we will meet at 12 with the Agri-Business Development Agency. Okay, colleagues, we'll log in again at 12.
Thanks, Chair.
Good afternoon, everyone. Cabo, do we have the department, the entity?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. We have the entity, but however, the MEC sent an apology that no, he has made a commitment earlier that no, he'll be out of a meeting at 12:30. I mean, so he'll join us at 12:30. So we can start the meeting. Then he'll join us at 12:30.
Okay, that's fine. Can you please just beam up the agenda? Thanks, Cabo. Colleagues, I'd like to just open and welcome everyone to this meeting of the Agribusiness Development Agency. Let me just say that we called you in slightly earlier. I know you were scheduled to be in at 12:30, but we have finished earlier with the Department of Health and thought rather than waste time, if it was possible, we'd call you in. So we do understand about the MEC's prior commitment. But you are all welcome nevertheless. I understand that the Accounting Authority of Agribusiness Development Agency is with us. I'm not sure who else is here, but we'll hear as we go. Let me then, Cabo, go to the attendance and apologies. Do we have any apologies? We've taken what the MEC has said, and we understand that she will join late because she had a commitment prior to this. Any other apologies, Cabo?
No other apologies, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll go to the constitution of the meeting. This meeting is quorate and duly constituted, so there is no problem there. But I'd ask for a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda, please. Just by show of hands. Honorable Taylor.
Good afternoon, Chair. I move for the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you very much. Can we have a seconder, please? Oops, members. Can we please have a seconder for the agenda? I see the hand of Honourable de Klerk. Honourable de Klerk.
Second, the.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honourable de Klerk. So let me then move to the Accounting Authority of the Agribusiness Development Agency. In the absence of the MEC, let's go directly to you to ask you to take an oath or affirmation to speak the truth. And you can also point us to anybody else who may be speaking in this meeting who would then have to take the oath or affirmation. Mr. Mazibuko.
Good day and thank you, Chair. I would like to introduce the accounting authority or someone who represents an accounting authority for the entity, Ms. Lumka Sibanyoni, who's the chairperson of the Audit and Risk Committee. She will therefore do the affirmation.
Okay, Ms. Sibanyoni, can you take the oath or affirmation? This is how you'll do it. You'll say I, and you'll give your name. Do hereby swear to speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God, if you are swearing to do that. If you're affirming, you'll say I, give your name. Do hereby affirm that I will speak the truth, nothing but the truth. I do hereby affirm. So can we hand over to you? Thank you.
I, Lumka Sibanyoni, swear to speak nothing but the truth. Oh, sorry, please remind me. Honorable Chair, please remind me the words I need to say.
Yes. You've covered the main part. You just got to say, so help me God, if you're swearing.
Yes. So help me God. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who is going to be speaking, Mr. Banyoni?
It is going to be this acting CEO, Dr. Mieni, Mr. Mazibuko, who's already been on the floor, and then the CFO, Ms. Mkhize. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so can we start with the acting CEO, and then you can just do the same thing, swear or affirm to speak the truth, and then hand over to the next person and the next person. Thank you. And if you can just briefly, when you're doing this, just show us your face for a minute, just so we see who you are, and then you can close.
Greetings, Chairperson. I'm not too sure whether my camera is visible now. Can you see me?
We can see you. Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. You'll help me, Chair. I, Nonhlanhla Pretty Mieni, I swear that I'll speak the truth and the only truth. Please help me, God. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you. Who's next?
Honorable Chair, I, Siyabonga Mazibuko, I affirm to speak the truth and only truth. So help me God.
Is there anybody else?
The CFO.
I, Matobi Mkhize, swear to tell the truth, nothing else but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you, Ms. Mkhize. Okay, I think we've covered the officials who are going to be speaking. I don't think I've left anyone out. If I have, then we'll, if you're going to speak, we'll ask you to take the oath of affirmation. So without further ado, let's proceed with your presentation. But let me just give some introductory remarks here. You've received an unqualified audit over the past 3 years. So that entity, your entity, has been very good, and we are quite pleased with that. You've also received an unqualified audit of your performance for programs 2, 3, and 4. However, where we are concerned, and which is why we've called you, is that there's been a bit of a regression in terms of your compliance with legislation around the annual financial statement, around revenue management, around procurement and consequence management. In all 3 of those areas, you have experienced something of a regression, and there have been material findings in relation to that. So we also have had findings on procurement and contract management. The findings in procurement and contract management deal with non-compliance with the quotation process. So in the light of that, and given that your audit outcomes have been good for the past few years, we felt it was prudent to call you in to get you to explain what measures you are going to be taking to address this to prevent a recurrence. So that is the background to us calling you, because I'm sure you wondered why, when you received an unqualified, you were being called in. Okay, so let me hand over then to you as the entity and for your presentation. And I think if you can flight it, it would assist. It has been circulated to members electronically, but if you could flight it, it would help. Thanks, CFO. We can see it.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members of the committee. I'm not sure if the HOD of the department is here. I'm not very familiar with all the names, but if he is here, greetings to the HOD and all staff present, and to the delegation from the entity. I'm Lumka Sibanyoni, the chairperson of the Risk and Audit Committee of the Agribusiness Development Agency. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the invitation extended to the entity. The structure of our presentation: firstly, we will have the COO, Mr. Mazibuko, giving us an overview of the issues that we need to address.
Chair.
Honorable Taylor.
Chair, I'm not sure if what is happening with this presentation of this entity. I'm not sure who's speaking now and how we normally do these types of presentations. I'm expecting the entity itself, and I'm wondering why the chairperson of the risk committee is the one who's speaking on behalf of the entity. She's not even sure who's the HOD. So I've not heard the HOD. Is he present in the meeting? And who's presenting to us as members of the legislature?
Well, this is the thing, right? We'll get it now. The HOD is not present. I think we had said 12:30, so I'm sure they would come in. I can see Mr. Dlamini's hand is up.
Good day, Chair. Mr. Dlamini is the HOD of the department. He is also present in the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, fine. So, Mr. Dlamini, if you can just tell us, you see, it's the board, normally the chairperson of the board would, tell us who is going to do the presentation, and the HOD of the department would be there as well. Would normally get a presentation from the CFO, but you can just tell us what's going on.
Honorable Chair and members, we've just had a new acting CEO appointed in the form of Dr. Mieni. She's going to be leading her team, but the presentation will be done by the CFO.
Okay, so, but we now have the chairperson of Audit and Risk. This is why Honorable Taylor is raising the issue.
Chair, can we allow the acting CEO to lead, as we are told that there is someone who's leading the department currently. Thanks.
Ms. Miani, if you can just tell us, outline to us exactly how this presentation is going to be done and why it is that the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee is presenting.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to all members once again. Chairperson, I think let's firstly apologize for those glitches. I think one is not mostly familiar with the processes. However, I need to indicate that the chair that was trying to give a background was not going to present per se. It was just to give a breakdown of what is contained in the presentation. The presentation will be made by OCFO, and then we are here to support. Thanks, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Cele, I think we are comfortable with that. Okay, let's proceed.
Chair.
Okay, you can proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. As I was saying, Mr. Mazibuko will give the committee an overview of the issues. The presentation is going to be done by the CFO, Ms. Mkhize, with the closing remarks then being summarized by the acting CEO. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you.
Mr. Mazibuko.
Continue.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good day, honorable members. As outlined by the Chair, I would like to indicate that the entity has received unqualified audit opinions for the last 3 years, but there was a regression in the last year under the year under review due to some matters of compliance issues of revenue, and issues of material funding, even on under expenditure. Chair, I'm going to request that the CFO will go into the details of the action plan in terms of remedial action that we're going to take.
Chair.
Okay. Honorable Cele.
Will be assisted, please, by this entity. Can the CFO just take the platform and the acting CEO assist us, please? I don't know who's Mr. Mazibuko. I don't know what position Mr. Mazibuko holds. And why is so many people addressing us before the CFO takes over?
Honorable Cele, I think they've more or less done, and it is the CFO coming in now. There were 2 people who were giving us some background, and I think it's because the CEO is new. But let's allow the CFO now to speak.
Excuse me. Good afternoon, honorable members and colleagues. Our presentation is as follows. We've got our contents. We are going to be dealing with the audit outcome, and then the issues that were raised, and then other factors that affect or might affect the audit outcome in future, and our mitigating strategies on them. So as has been indicated, we have received an unqualified audit with findings in the 22-23 financial year, whereas as the Honorable Chairperson has indicated that in the previous year we had an unqualified with no findings. The reasons for the regression was mainly on the material misstatements, on the disclosures mainly. And then there was also a procurement that was done on CIDB, not in line with the CIDB Act, and then there are issues on revenue management. The other issues that were emphasized as well were we had to reinstate the corresponding figures. Also, material underspending was mentioned, was picked up by the AG on conditional grants, and then there's material provision for credit losses. The emphasis of the matter did not quite affect our audit, but it was indicated that the readers of the annual report should be aware of these matters. I'll then go through each one of them, starting with the material misstatements. One of the material misstatements that we had was the overstatement of our prepayments. We had incorrectly included 20.8 million in commitments, and also included it on the face of our annual financial statements. On the face of the balance sheet, we had it as a prepayment, this amount. We also recorded it as a commitment. So we sort of double counted on this one, or double disclosed on this one. So we were penalized for that. In terms of GRAP, it says the notes to the financial state should include unrecognized contractual commitments. So we had already recognized this on the face of the annual financial statements on the balance sheet. So we had to change that, remove it from the commitments on the disclosure. And then the root cause for this one, we said, is at times the interpretation of terms differ, especially in terms of GRAP. The interpretation of unrecognized was the issue in this instance. So, but now we said we are now going to be seeking workshops from the provincial treasurer on all new standards, and also undergo training on new GRAP standards. And then Treasury has indicated in the next meeting, that the next training will be in the fourth quarter of the 23-24 financial year. It was just the intricacies of the GRAP standards that we sort of misinterpreted. And then also we understated the commitments, our commitments now, the real commitments, we did not include all of them. So we said we need to, the root cause is that our commitments register is updated manually and is prone to human error of omission and commission. So we are now going to be automating the commitments register on our SAGE system, which is our financial system that we use. We are now checking the contract register as well against the commitments made. We are also now investigating the automation of the contract register itself. The next one is also on disclosure. The financial instruments were incorrectly classified at fair value instead of at cost. Again, it's a matter of the interpretation of the standard. We then, as remedial action as well, we are seeking consistent training and continuous training from the Treasury in terms of the standards. And as I've indicated before, the next training is in the fourth quarter of 22-23. And then the next one was project expenses incorrectly calculated. So here, as we are using the GRAP standards, we give beneficiaries upfront payments. We give them money so that they can utilize on their businesses. And then they have to spend this money and then give us back the confirmation in terms of how they've spent the money. And this is where, when they return those documents, sometimes there's incorrect capturing. And then we're saying proof of expenditure by beneficiaries is not always provided timelessly for proper reviews. The mitigation there is that we will ensure that the submission of documentation, will ensure timely submission of documentation for adequate time to conduct proper reviews. And also we are considering staggering the completion of projects so that there are no bottlenecks at the end of the year in terms of now recording and reporting. And also we are looking at the multi-year implementation of projects so that we don't try to finish all the projects in the fourth quarter, because that causes it causes problems for us at the end of the year when we have to report. The next one is the contract awarded to a bidder that did not comply with the Regulation 17 of the CIDB, which states the thresholds. The thresholds are stated, and we awarded Our award was to a service provider that was not quite qualified. Because above 500,000, it was supposed to be another level. We gave it to a lower level. Fortunately, the service provider was able to complete the job. But then we say we omitted the scrutinization of the relevant thresholds. There was that omission. We checked that she was registered, the service provider was registered on CIDB, but omitted to check the relevant thresholds. So the mitigation there is the SCM checklist will be updated to show that the budget is in line with the CIDB grading. So it's in one of the checklists now. It's included in our checklist. And then also the constant attending of workshops to avoid any future problems that relate to the CIDB. We have already attended one workshop on the CIDB matters in October, and it's one of our mitigating matters. And then consequent management has been effected actually to the officials that were responsible, because this was some kind of negligence that was picked up here. Thank you. The next one is contracts not monitored for performance. The root cause is that there's no performance management tools that are developed with specifications. The mitigation of that is that the contract management tool will be stipulated in the specifications that is prepared by the end user on how performance will be monitored. The contract management tool will then be monitored by SCM on a quarterly basis. Here we do have SLAs in terms of we do have service level agreements, but what we are short of is a specific contract management tool that then measures what is stipulated in the service level agreement. So we are in the process of developing that, and we should be able to utilize it in the third quarter of the financial year. And then the deviations were not reported to Treasury within an AG within 40 days. It was a new instruction note, and there was some kind of negligence on our side in terms of making sure that we adhere to it. So we're saying as soon as new regulations are received, SCM compliance list will be updated, and we'll have. So we're indicating that it occurred during the early stages of the new regulation. So, but then we are going to be amending our checklist as well. Thank you. And then the next one is effective appropriate steps not taken to collect revenue. We are saying here that the root cause is old historical debt and culture of non-payment at Makhathini. This is mainly relating to the Makhathini, as we are serving the Makhathini irrigation scheme. And then there are complications on land issues, and there are complications on water provision as well. The mitigating steps are development of a strategy and adherence to that strategy. Development of relevant policies such as revenue management, debt collection, as well as debt write-off and adherence thereto. And then further engagements with farmers to try and resolve their problems. And also there's an agreement that has been signed with the Mkhanyakude District Municipality to effect charges for water consumed by the municipality as well. So the debt collection strategy has been approved by the board and is currently being implemented. The policy will be approved in November 2023. Other factors that might affect future audits, we're saying human capital. So these are the factors that have affected us or might even affect the future audits. Human capital, due to budget constraints and austerity measures, sometimes we place reliance on interns who are trainees to carry out our duties. And then we are going to be mitigating that by recruiting for critical areas such as finance and the compliance unit, which will assist us to ensure that the compliance we are not faltering on compliance. And then we are also looking into the systems. The financial and HR systems are being enhanced to assist with more accurate reporting. And then a reporting system for projects will be looked into as well to alleviate the problem of our project reporting at year end. Then we are also looking standard procedures we are currently developing them for all the required areas. And then we are also improving the planning so that we don't find ourselves having bottlenecks. We need to plan better, especially for our projects and also the financial preparation times. So then we're doing also monthly monitoring and reporting so that we don't have bottlenecks again at the end of the year. Record keeping has improved, and there was no finding that resulted from poor record keeping. More measures are being taken to improve further, though. And then the other areas is that there's continuous training that is required, especially on the reporting on CRAP standards, and as well as treasury regulations on the SCM side as well. And then other matters that were raised was that no policy for the process of special interventions. We do have, as an entity, special interventions, that those are the requests that come just for special projects that have not been part of the approval at the beginning of the year. So we do have those, and we do grant funding. It's some kind of ad hoc funding. And then the AG indicated that we need to have a policy on these special interventions. Now we're saying that the funding policy will be updated to include a section on special interventions. The policy has currently been updated, and then the updates are going to be approved in the second quarter. And then late submission of information as well related to the project information. The mitigation is this proposed staggered completion of work of the project so that documentation is submitted timelessly to eliminate congestion at year end. And then consideration of planning, treating projects as multi-year projects so that we don't get pressurized in one particular year. That is the end of the audit matters that were picked up. I must indicate, Chair, that this is the summarized and then version, and then we do have a detailed AG improvement plan. I'm not sure if the Chair and the committee members would want us to present it, but we have submitted the detailed AG improvement plan. I don't know if I should continue then, because this is the next requirement now, the progress on condonation of irregular expenditure, Chair.
I think continue, please, CFO.
Thank you, Chair. So now we come to the progress on condonation of irregular expenditure. We're giving a brief background to say the cumulative balance of regular expenditure in prior financial years has not.
CFO, you seem to have been cut off.
Amounted to 104 million back to 10. We had an amount of 124 million dating back to 2010 and 2011. And then application for condonation has been made to date of all the irregular expenditure dating as far back as 2010, 2011. And then the progress on the condonation is as follows in terms of 2.1. In January 2023, an application was made for condonation of 74.7 million, which was made up of irregular expenditure from 2010 to 2011 to 2015-16 financial years. In June 2023, Treasury approved transactions amounting to 20.9 million, leaving a balance of 53.5 million, where supporting documents could not be located. This is just the summary. I'll then go through to, there was also a submission of condonation of irregular expenditure that was made in March, and then the approval was obtained for 8.4, leaving a balance of 520. Then to date, we have made 6 submissions to Treasury, and in terms of that, there's a table below that will indicate how much has been condoned and how much has been not condoned. Let me just please go through that table. The table, we are saying we have 25.7 million that was submitted in 2020 that has not been concluded by Treasury. And then in June, we submitted 19.9 million. That one has been completed. And then 12.9 has been, 7 has been condoned and 12.9 has not been condoned. And then we submitted also 2.8, and out of that 1 million was condoned. And then we also submitted, as indicated in the summary above, 8.9, and then only 8.4 was condoned. The reason for the non-condonation of the other irregular expenditure is mainly the loss of documents. Treasury cannot find some of the, we cannot find some of the documents to submit to Treasury. And then Treasury has indicated they are not in the position to condone that irregular expenditure, but we can, the accounting authority can then write it off. But then our accounting authority as well has indicated they're not keen to condone to write off expenditure if they don't have the documentation. So we are having a bit of a challenge in that regard, but we have also sought further clarity from Treasury in terms of what we are going to do, because they date back to as early as 2010, 2011. And our record keeping system at the time was quite poor, so we cannot find some of those documents. Thank you, Chair. The summary is that we have submitted 132, and out of that, only 38 has been condoned. There's 67 that has not been condoned. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thanks, CFO. Well, colleagues, that is the presentation. It's covered the issues raised in terms of the AG, which the main issue, of course, was the new findings that had come in. And as the AG had recommended, the draft financial statements and supporting schedules must be submitted for review timeously. They should take appropriate and effective steps to collect the owing balance, because their debts have mounted up, right? And they've not been collecting, and they should consider using compliance checklists to ensure that staff are complying with applicable laws and regulations. So those are the key issues. Then we've had a report on the irregular expenditure. I see the hand of Honourable Cele.
Thanks, Chair. One must really appreciate the presentation given by Ms. Mkhize on what they are going to do on these findings by the Auditor General. I must say that all we want as members is to hear the plan that is in place and the timeframes. And one of the things, Chair, that worries me a lot is the fact that they are saying that they've got a challenge with human capital. They don't have people in strategic positions. For me, it's just to find out the timeframes, Chair, on human capital and their systems that are not in place. By when are they going to be able to deal with those? At least on the policy that was raised by the Auditor General, at least on that one, they do have a time frame for it. Another one, Chair, is the material findings. It's quite interesting, though, that the CFO says that they will keep on training. Who are they going to train if they don't have relevant people in these different positions that needs to be filled? And the fact that they don't have a permanent CEO, I think that also has played and caused for them to regress in the Auditor General's findings. I think the HOD and the MEC needs to really look into that and see if they find someone permanently who's going to take the positions, Chair. For now, those are my key findings, Chair. Thanks.
Thanks, Honourable Cele. Is there anybody else? I think the issue of the vacancies is an important one, Honourable Cele, because as long as there are vacancies that are not filled, you'll always have instability in an entity. And here there is concern that, whilst there is the unqualified, it's, precariously close with new findings for that to change. Okay, if there are no other questions, I'm just checking, colleagues, then let me hand over to the entity,
Chair, before
officials and the board. Sorry, is that Honourable Cele?
Yeah, it's me again, Chair. I heard that they are saying there are consequence management that they've taken against the whoever awarded that bid without checking the standards and the CIDB, and we are hoping, Chair, that those will not happen again, because we don't want to see anyone awarding contracts and breaking the laws. It can't happen, Chair, on our entities. Thanks.
Honourable Kulu.
I'm very sorry, Honourable Chairperson. But one thing that I wanted just to check on is the issue of the ever-growing debt book. Is there a proper plan to cap this? Do they have a plan? Because my concern also is what Honourable Cele have said, that you are going to train people, but the people that you don't have. So if you're going to talk about the capping of the ever-growing debt book, what is the plan? How are you going to do it? Who's going to do it because of the challenge that you still have of the staff? Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Zulu from the Provincial Audit and Risk.
Thanks, Chair, for giving me the opportunity. To the CFO, I've seen from the plan the area where we're talking about contract management and the key performance indicators for a contractor. I appreciate the fact that the indicators will be drafted by the end user, but I was a bit confused when you were reporting that SCM will monitor. What will SCM be monitoring? Because I expect the end user to be the one who is monitoring but reporting to the CFO, to the CEO, that the performance as expected has been met. I don't know whether there was confusion on that, but I would like that to be clarified, because the end users are the one responsible for making sure and who have a better understanding of what is expected or if it has been met. Thank
you. Thank you. Mr. Zulu, I'm not sure. Do you interact with this entity as the Provincial Audit and Risk? Because some of the issues that are coming up, they are also talking about, the requirements for training, etc. And I'd like to know how, they are being supported. So let's also get that after they respond.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Are there any other issues? Okay.
That was all, Chair. Thanks. I was just giving advice only on that one.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, let's hand over then to the entity. I'm not sure who is responding. It doesn't only have to be the CFO, whoever feels. Okay, Acting CEO, Ms. Mieni.
Thank you, Chairperson and members, for all the comments that have been made. One is appreciating the support that we are getting from the members in terms of assisting us in terms of going back to what we were before, which is obviously is our end goal. I think, Chairperson, we are noting and acknowledging the materials that were found by OAG, and with those mitigations that have been presented, we are hoping that we will be able to address all the issues that are raised. The issue of the system that we are bringing in terms of ensuring that those erroneous capturing of information is not happening. I must indicate that in terms of the human capacity, we are finalizing the re-engineering of the other agency, and we are hoping to move with the speed in terms of finalizing that, so that we are able to fill all the critical vacant posts, so that we are able to execute the work that we are supposed to do. I think in terms of the last speaker, I think Mr. Zulu, I think you are correct, honorable member, in terms of saying that it has to be a CEO that oversee the performance. I think we might have captured that erroneously. We will correct that accordingly. Chairperson, what I also wanted to add is that as much as we are waiting for a workshop with Treasurer, we are ensuring that we are accurately putting information in this. Obviously, we are using manually as we are indicated, but we have improved in terms of quality check of that information that is being capturing. We are obviously acknowledging that the system will start be operational in the third quarter. Obviously, that will be like a third quarter since the year has the financial year has started. So what I've indicated to my colleagues is that once the system is up and running, we need to upload or overlay all the information that is already captured or put in manually, so that we ensure that all the information is tallying up. Yeah. The issue of the permanent CEO, I think board has given a timeline to say after after the straight plan, which is planned in November, they will start actioning the process of appointing the permanent CEO. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to add, Chair. But thank you so much for your input, and we are committing ourselves that we are going to improve our system. The issues of adhering to the prescripts and the regulations, it's quite important for us, so that we go back to the status that we had before or in the previous year. May I then request my colleagues to add if there's something that I'm leaving behind in terms of the questions? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Acting CEO. Ms. Mkhize, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable members, I think what our Acting CEO has omitted is the issue raised by Honorable Zulu of the ever-growing debt. Yes, the ever-growing debt is a huge challenge for us. And then he asked who is going to be doing this. We have, as we indicated, we now have a strategy, and in our strategy, one of the points is that we should actually appoint a debt collector to assist us. So that part of trying to collect more is going to be done by a debt collector. The bid process for debt collectors is underway. We should be getting one probably by the end of the third quarter, if not beginning of the fourth quarter. That's mainly that one that we are now seeking external assistance in terms of that. Yes, thank you, Chair. That's all I can say.
Thanks, CFO. Colleagues, are there any other issues?
No, we are fine, Chair. Thanks.
Okay. Then in that case, let me thank the entity for availing yourselves to come here. As I said at the outset, you have received an unqualified audit. Our concern was that there were new findings which could endanger your audit outcomes, particularly in the issues around procurement and contract management and your expenditure management. We have heard what you are saying, and we will obviously follow up with resolutions which you would, then respond to. But thank you very, very much. And we will hold you to the commitments that you have made. Thank you. We can release you.
Thank you, Chair and honourable members.
Thank you, Honourable Chair and members.
Thank you, Chair and members.
Okay. Bye. Colleagues, that then closes our hearing for the day. Our next hearing is on Tuesday. So colleagues, you will log in for that. Thank you very much. We've also asked the Department of Education to respond to the issues we raised by Tuesday. That's in writing. And we've scheduled the hearing for the 24th. So they have adequate time. Thanks, colleagues. Thanks, everyone, for giving your time. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye.
Thank you, Chair.